intense, seriously intense. This is one of the toughest things I think anybody who's ever done it has ever done. Exhilarating. There is nothing like the feeling of coming out on track in front of a crowd with people who are there cheering you on, and a team that you've worked so hard to get there with and just want to give your absolute all. Hardcore. There is just nothing like this, and you have to give your 100% every single time. And if you don't, you'll know that you didn't, and everybody else will know that you didn't.
You can't touch this! It's number 248, Dempsey Hammer! Number 2,
I came across roller derby because I saw a film called Whip It, which is, I think, how a lot of people came across derby, particularly outside of the US. It's a funny one because the film's actually based on bank track roller derby, and they take pretty artistic license with the rules, but it is how I came across it. And after I saw the film, I looked up roller derby on the web and found Belfast roller derby, and that was in 2010. The main character of the film has real difficulty at the beginning with the toughness of the sport and the fact that you have to give hits, but even more importantly that you have to take them and get back up again and keep going. And you see her go through the journey of finding that really difficult, and then she gets to a point where she sort of transforms, and it's not that she becomes something that she wasn't before, it's like she becomes the best she could have been, as it were. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but I guess it really resonated with me. I had been on the receiving end of a couple of violent attacks when I was younger, and I had a real loss of confidence, and I was nervous walking down the street, I was nervous walking past big groups of people or big groups of guys. Something changed for me when I started playing derby, because I remember there being a point one day I walked through a crowd of guys standing beside my car one night coming out of a garage, and it was only when I got up the road I realised that it had happened and that it hadn't affected me at all. The game of roller derby is a flat track roller derby, which is what we play, is an hour long. It's broken down into 2 periods of 30 minutes, and within those periods there are periods of play which are called jams, and they last up to 2 minutes. There are 14 players on each team. 2 teams go up against each other in a game. And in those jams, 5 players from each team are fielded, and they're put into positions. The positions aren't set. You can play any position depending on what your lineup think you should be playing. 4 of the players are blockers, and 1 is a jammer. The jammer is the point scorer. The jammer's job is to pass the opposing players and to lap them in order to score points. Before my first game, I was absolutely terrified, not gonna lie. I'd never done anything like that before, not in a sporting capacity. I've done performances before, but I didn't rely on my body actually working for the most part. And I remember lining up for the jam line in the first jam that I was on, getting up onto my toe stops and my legs were shaking, and I didn't think I was actually going to be able to skate. So I was incredibly nervous, and it took, I think, till jam 19 before that passed. And when it did, it kind of became adrenaline, at which point things really started feeling like I felt like I knew what I was doing. I felt like I started getting somewhere with the game. In Ireland at the minute there are, I think, 9 leagues now of roller derby, and there started out just being 2 when Belfast roller derby came into existence. It was the second on the island, and that was in 2010. And the real focus now is on sport. I mean, it's something that's a real physical and mental challenge, but that's part of the challenge that we have in selling roller derby to people, is that we try to get them to understand that it is actually a full contact sport and it's a serious business. But some people have these sort of legacy ideas in their head about what it used to be and whether or not it's something that is serious anymore. And obviously with the theatricality and the names and stuff, it does seem, to have certain things in common with like WWE wrestling, which is scripted and stylized, but it isn't that at all. And I think the more that people start to understand that, and the more that people come and see games, I mean, the amount of people, even in the last week, who came to see our game last week and have said, I couldn't believe how forceful it was, how big the hits were, how heavy the falls were, and how seriously you all take it. You're not allowed to elbow people or push them or trip them or headbutt them or punch them or any of the stuff that mixed martial arts, for example, might allow you to do. I don't think it's something that it would put me off encouraging anybody else to do, even a young person. I think derby is an incredibly positive sport. It's really been a hugely positive influence in my life, and that includes the injuries. I would like for Belfast roller derby to grow. I would like for us to move up in the rankings. I would like for us to just get better and better. And I think all these things are happening. These are all the things that we're working towards, and I would just like to come along for the ride as long as I possibly can before whatever it is that stops me from playing derby and someday in the future comes along.